Can Ari Aster pull me in? Can he bring me into his realm of craziness? Let's talk about that. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to Movie Emporium's movie review of Eddington, the fourth film from director Ari Aster. Okay, Eddington. Ari Aster is a man known for the insanity, the craziness of the human psyche. And so here we have a film that's a neo-western that stars, of course, Joaquin Phoenix as a sheriff in a town in Eddington, New Mexico. And he is an individual during COVID who doesn't believe people should wear masks. He doesn't believe people should have to be separated from everyone and stores should be open. He's that typical, very much American individual who very much believes that the world should be sane. And we have another mayor played by, of course, Pedro Pascal, who is on the opposite end where he is part of the shutdown. He believes everyone should wear masks and 6 feet and all that stuff. And it becomes a Western style film between two individuals with different political ideologies and the kind of nature of the powder keg explosion that starts to happen between the Black Lives Matter movement and all kinds of stuff. This movie is pulling from all kinds of, crazy scenarios that we've dealt with in the last 5 years in Ari Aster's version of a COVID movie. So with that said, that is my at least non-spoiler take of what this movie is about. It literally is about two individuals dealing with the COVID situation, or it's actually a bunch of individuals dealing with the COVID situation, but there is much more going on with that when it comes to Ari Aster's films, as they usually are. But with that said, I am not the hugest Ari Aster fan. I do go in with, at least a mind open type of mentality when it comes to his films, because there's going to be one movie that Ari Aster does, like a lot of directors, where I'm just going to be like, oh, okay, that clicks, that kind of works for me. But it hasn't happened yet. I mean, I'm very much not a fan of Hereditary or Midsummer, or definitely not Beau is Afraid, which was a very, I couldn't get through that movie. So take that for what you will, because I definitely went with an open mind with this movie, and it has a great cast. It has, of course, Joaquin Phoenix and Pedro Pascal and Emma Stone and Austin Butler and just a whole bunch of collective cast of individuals. And it seemed interesting, dealing with COVID and dealing with what Ari Aster has, in his mind of what COVID did to a lot of people, which is separate a lot of people, and how does that affect people, and what does that do? And then on top of that is dealing with some other stuff. It's just, what will Ari Aster bring to the table, and is it even worth watching? That's kind of how you have to look at it. But like Beau's Afraid, this is a very divisive movie. It only has like a 67% on Rotten Tomatoes, so that's very divisive. That means that it didn't hit for a lot of people like Hereditary, Midsummer did. So, take that for what it's worth. I mean, this is going to be a movie where a lot of Ari Aster fans are going to be very happy with and all that good stuff. So my honest take of this movie is, I got to say that the first half of this movie is actually quite interesting and quite good. I think Joaquin Phoenix is giving another interesting performance, and he's like the standout of this movie, which is, it should be, because it's his his character is the main character of this movie. But how Ari Aster sets up the COVID situation, how he sets up the Black Lives Matter movement, how he looks at both sides as very kind of what I would call strong-minded and not necessarily the right view, is very interesting, because you don't see a lot of that. You either see one side, the conservative side, the side of liberals, the Democratic side, but you never see a middle take where you see one individual. And I mean, yes, Joaquin Phoenix's character of Cross is leaning one direction, but you've never seen a movie that actually has a particular stance of being in the middle and seeing both like extremes on both sides. And therefore, I was really interested in like the first half of this movie. I think it's really kind of kinetic. I think it does a lot of interesting stuff about talking about COVID and like the nature of how it basically kind of collapsed society in a lot of respects. It is like the beginning of like a real bad collapse. It also deals with like, we have an individual that is trying to make people safe and, people, secure. And then you have the other guy who wants people to stay open and people to have no mask and, all that stuff. And it really feels like a movie that really has a strong sense of like, you're all a bunch of idiots. You're all a bunch of crazy, mentally stupid people that don't understand that we got to work together. We can't live in a society that's separated. And wherever you lean, I'm not going to sit here and like argue with that, but you know, it is definitely taking a stance on just the nature of how the divided America is. But it also does in a Western sense where you watch a group of individuals square off and a bunch of another group of individuals. You see strong-willed individuals. You see a nature of a town that feels very desolate and like downgraded and just feels like on loose ends. And then you have a bunch of people who fight back, and it becomes a lot of that kind of stuff. And then on top of that, you have a sheriff who just finally has enough of it and finally just like wants to become mayor. So he's taking on the mayor itself. And then he's dealing with a wife who's played by Emma Stone, who just becomes very, is just kind of out of it, to be fairly honest. So you're dealing with a lot of stuff in this powder keg that's going to eventually explode, as most Ari Aster movies do. And one other thing I have to bring up, and something that's very interesting about this movie, is this take on social media, how social media has kind of shaped our views on society, how it deals with like, you know, fake news. It deals with the nature of how we can be put in a box when it comes to like how we believe and what we believe, how we are so gullible with what we see online, how it informs us of like, you know, you watch Joaquin Phoenix's character just kind of be consumed about, you know, what he sees on the internet when it comes to the posts that are about him. We also see it from the other side, and how they use that as like a kind of a speakerphone to, you know, blare out to the people. And social media, Ari Aster has a very strong stance about why it's a very difficult and very damaging situation where instead of having truths, instead of having realities, we are led into this world that has a black hole of misinformation, that is a black hole of just not being correct, of just like both sides are just in the wrong when it comes to how they view things and how they put things out there online. And it really showing the kind of beginnings and machinations of what social media can do. You see that with the Austin Butler character, how people kind of form into his character, and I do appreciate that. I really do. I think that's really interesting. You cannot deny that social media has affected this country in the most chaotic ways imaginable. So that's kind of how you have to look at that when it comes to that kind of nature. But it's an interesting idea. Whether it's executed is just going to be depending on how you feel about it. So. But after all that's said and done, you get, you know, this is a 2.5 hour movie, so you get into a certain kind of rhythm and really interesting, and you're feeling like the nature of like everything starting to build up and build up and build up and build up. It gets to the point where that powder keg explodes and everything just becomes like once again, it's very much a look into America where things just kind of fall apart. And at that point, I actually fell apart on this movie, because as much as I like and feel that Ari Aster is giving some interesting concepts and ideas, it goes into weird territory, and this is where I think everybody who did not like this movie kind of fell off as well. Characters do things in this movie. There are certain scenarios that happen that set off that powder keg that are really just kind of don't make any sense. They just feel like they're there to make you uncomfortable. They're there to make people go insane. They're there to make you feel like, oh God, why am I watching this? And I don't feel that works for me. It's something that, you know, David Lynch does that I am never a big, like, I'm not a huge David Lynch fan, but it's something that he did as well, where he starts to really delve into the break of a psyche and stuff like that. And it becomes just really weird. It becomes like, it's like what happened in Midsummer. It's what happened in Hereditary. It's what happened in Beau is Afraid. It's where Ari Aster starts to get a little pretentious, to be fairly honest. There are just things that happen in the last half of this movie, which I'm just like, ugh. Why are they doing that? What is happening? Why are they going there? I know what he's trying to say, but sometimes I think he's given a little bit too much of a leash, and his ideologies and ideas on what he wants out of a movie are very strong, and obviously he's deserved it. But you got to ring yourself in sometimes. I mean, this movie doesn't need to be 2.5 hours long. It doesn't need to go where it needs to go. It can be more, it feels like it's like hitting you with a sledgehammer, and it's not as subtle, which the first half was more subtle and more interesting and less deranged. And I think, once again, I just don't think Ari Aster's for me. Like, I can enjoy parts and segments of this, but the stuff with like Austin Butler, I was not really that into, and you know, the stuff that deals with like the more strong-willed liberal characters, I was not really into, and the same thing with like some of the conservative characters, I was not really into either. And it really becomes a level of how much are you willing to like deal with and accept in a movie before you kind of break. And maybe that's what this movie's purpose is. I don't know. Overall, I think this is a good, decent first half that's kind of ruined by the stuff that kind of unravels when the second half happens. And once again, as you can tell, I'm trying to kind of tiptoe and dance around it because it really is something you kind of had to experience if you're an Ari Aster fan. But know going in that if you're curious about this movie, if you've never seen an Ari Aster movie, for one, I would highly not recommend this movie for you because it's going to make you go, what just happened? And that's not a good thing. That really isn't. Like, there are levels of like creativity when it comes to artistry that I can accept, and it's just not one of them. So I think the movie, once again, it's a good first half, a terrible second half, so it makes it for an okay movie. There you go. And I think once again, Joaquin Phoenix is fantastic. Everyone else is good, but there's only a level of what Joaquin Phoenix can do before the movie starts to unravel upon itself. That's how I look. So there you go. Anyways, with that said, thank you so much for watching. In the comments below, what do you think about Ari Aster's style? Like, what do you think about like what he did with Hereditary and what he did with The Beau is Afraid? Are you looking forward to Eddington? Tell me why. If you've seen it, tell me why. You know what made you feel about it, all that good stuff. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. If you like what you see on this channel, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome. Hit that like button, and we'll see you for another video review. Peace out, guys.